Welcome to the Fran Snyder Podcast, where I talk to artists and music fans to explore how music connects us through great stories and experiences. Brought to you by Listening Room Network. Today's guest, singer-songwriter Maiah Wynne. And we are live with Maiah Wynne. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. I know you're in the Pacific Northwest, away from the fires, right?
Yes, thankfully. There are some fires in Oregon, but at the moment, they're mostly in California. So thankfully, nothing too crazy here.
Yeah, I understand you just kind of lost a gig for a studio that's almost engulfed in flames or
Oh,
pretty close to it.
man. Yeah, Burl Audio, I was going to do a live stream at their studio in Santa Cruz, and their whole house and studio is completely surrounded by the fires. And so far, they've been safe, but man, my heart goes out to them. I'm really, really scared for them. Their first studio actually burned down, so I'm sure that they're just so scared of the same thing happening again. But
What a
man, those
year.
fires are crazy right now.
What a year. I know that you're young, but this is an unusual year.
Yeah, I've sensed that.
This doesn't happen every 10, 20 years.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so I think it's our second attempt at this. We'll clue in the audience. We had some audio difficulties the last time. So I kind of want to follow the same path because we had such a good time last time. Let's start with the success that you're having on YouTube. You're up to 18,000 subscribers. And I know for a lot of artists, especially right now, as you're making the switch to more stuff online, that those kinds of numbers can really boost the effectiveness of everything that you do. So I want to talk, I know there's no silver bullet to it, but I want to talk about your path to sort of creating that audience over the past few years. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has been a slow burn, except for the last few months because we sort of arrived on a project that's helped me gain a lot of followers. It's definitely been a slow burn. My manager, who's also my best friend, I call her my friendager, which I think a lot of musicians have those. But we always try to talk about ideas that we call it sideways to get fans. Because there's all the traditional routes, but everybody's going for those same pathways. And so it can be really crowded and really hard to find a way to get through. So we always try to find unique ways to try to gain fans. We've also been trying to learn. We've been taking marketing classes. And so we had one video do really well last year. And that got me up to 10,000 subscribers. Before that, I think I was only around 3,000, which I had sort of gained over 5 years.
Which video was that? This is before the Hunger Games stuff, right?
Yeah. Billie Eilish had just released her album that gained all of that attention and Grammy wins. And this was just after she released it. And I was like, okay, we should probably cover one of these songs because it's so popular. And there's a lot of crossover between our audiences. So I got a couple of my friends together and we did a really kind of unique cover of one of the songs. We did it YouTube style. We sort of studied what videos do really well on YouTube and the angle of the video, the lighting, everything. It got a lot of attention sort of on its own. It maybe got like 15,000 views, which was really good for me at the time. And then we used some of the new marketing techniques that we learned in a class that we took, and we did some advertisements for it, and it really did well on that front. And so we put a lot of work into it, we put some money into it, and then that got to almost 200,000 views now. And that was by far my first video ever to get over 100,000 views, and I had a big celebration.
Yeah, I want to break that down a little bit because a lot of people think that success is often dumb luck. I think it's really important, especially right now when we have all these opportunities while we're off the road. It's an opportunity to level up your skills, to take some classes, to join some seminars, and to get better and to create a strategy. So your first boost was doing the strategic cover, choosing something that was getting a lot of traction at the time, actually going to school on YouTube videos and learning kind of what works and making your own attempt at that. And you found success, but not only did it resonate, you invested in it, right? And you did some marketing and you spent some money and try to expand what you were building on. So I think those steps are really critical to know because a lot of artists in the space, especially when they're challenged and they're having trouble building an audience, it's great to know that there's more than just blind luck that goes into stuff. A lot of times it's really strategic work and having a team to help you so that you're not trying to do everything yourself,
Absolutely.
which is another big challenge. So that got you to about 10,000 views. And then you did something really interesting, which is, I recall hearing, 10, 15 years ago, one of the great ways for artists to get publicity on their recordings was not to pitch music magazines. And you touched on this a little bit already, but the idea of finding different markets where your music fits that theme. So if you write music about the oceans, you could get publicity in beach-related magazines. That's probably not a great example, but there's all kinds of things. There's people that are into, the Maritimes, geography, culture. There's all these different angles that you can connect your music with. And you were a fan of Hunger Games, and the author came out with a book. Why don't you tell us about that book and what led you to start adding music to it?
Yeah, so Suzanne Collins recently released a prequel to the Hunger Games series. If you're not familiar with the series, it did really well. It has a very large fan base, and this prequel has been really highly anticipated. I was really excited because the title had songbirds in it, and the first series did have The Hanging Tree and Deep in the Meadow. There was music that was part of those films. So I was excited because it seemed like maybe there would be new songs in this book. And there were. It wasn't just a few. I think there's like 12 songs total in the book that don't really have melodies. They're just lyrics, and they're just in lyric form. Even in the audiobook, I heard was very awkward. There wasn't any singing. It was just this guy kind of awkwardly reading a poem sort of thing. People talked about how awkward the audiobook was during the songs.
Yeah.
So as I was reading, my music brain couldn't help turn them into songs and come up with melodies. And so, it seemed like a good idea to put them out there. I imagine there was a lot of people reading who didn't have any sort of way to create a song out of those lyrics. I know that I have a lot of practice in it.
Yeah.
So I recorded my version of one of the songs, sort of the main song in the book, to see how it would do. And I put it out there, and it did really well. And, I tried to, again, I researched how the best way to tag videos on YouTube. I made sure to tag every single Hunger Games hashtag and for the book and the author. I put it on every social media platform out there, including Tumblr, which I don't normally use, but Tumblr is very friendly to people who read books and fandoms. Yeah, so it definitely did really well, and it started to gain its own sort of traction, which is the first time that that's happened for me without sort of external boost. It started to gain more and more views all on its own, which was really exciting.
Right. So now we're talking about not just the recording, but you actually made a video.
Yes.
You're promoting a video, not a CD or an album.
Yeah, and I dressed up as the character in the book too, which I think definitely helped me. I look like the character that sings these songs. She's a singer-songwriter, or I guess I look how a lot of people imagine her. So that was really exciting for me. I got to do a cosplay, and that was really fun.
Nice. Yeah, costume play has been the rage for a couple of years, it seems like. And then another thing that was fun for me to discover, again, being in the independent music business for so long, you get exposed to so many contests, so many things that, in order to function, they ask for an entry fee, and it's really frustrating for artists to, ascertain sort of the value, like, what are my chances? Is this even going to get listened to or looked at? Especially after you've tried 5 or 10 times and you're not getting feedback, and nobody's telling you why they didn't choose your song. You just you don't hear from them, or you get a polite mass rejection letter. So I think it's important to know sort of the resilience that you've had in applying for contests, which led to some significant stuff. So why don't you tell us about how many contests you got involved with, and then tell us about the win that you had with Music from the Moon in 2019.
Yeah, I've definitely entered a lot of contests. A lot of them that I think maybe were scams as well. It's always hard to tell online. But I got my first sort of big win a few years ago with a contest called Claim to Fame. And then I got another big contest win last year for this contest called Music from the Moon, and it was a songwriting contest. They wanted people to write a song about space exploration to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. And the prizes were pretty amazing. Like there was a $10,000 award, as well as recording at Fame Studios and performing for astronauts at the 50th anniversary gala. So it's just really cool. It fulfilled like the nerdy side of me and the music side of me all in one. So I was really excited.
Is Fame Studios at Muscle Shoals or some part of
Yes.
Alabama? Okay.
Yeah, which I watched the documentary,
Great
the
one.
day before I went in, and it was just amazing.
Nice.
And it was just an amazing experience. So I wrote the song about kids and encouraging them to explore careers in science, both boys and girls, because I think it's really important to encourage young women, especially in STEM fields. And I ended up winning, which was super crazy and exciting for me. You know those moments where you don't really expect, you really want something to happen,
Sure.
but as a musician you experience so many instances of failure that you just don't expect it. You're preparing yourself for not winning the whole time, but you're also getting excited at the same time the closer that you get. And so actually winning is just the most incredible feeling, especially that contest. I was so excited. It was such an amazing trip. I got to go to Alabama and to the Space and Rocket Center. I got to explore all of those things and Fame recording studios. It was just an amazing, amazing experience.
Excellent. And that song was called Show the World?
Yes.
All right, and we'll link to that in the show notes. And yeah, there's the line that stands out, of course, in that song is "Rocket Girl." Even though you're addressing not just girls in that song, but that is kind of the thing that wakes up your ears a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. I definitely thought about naming it Rocket Girl. I know you asked me last time, and I did. I really thought about it, but I also, you never know who's on the other side listening, because there were judges. There were some celebrity judges as well. John Paul White from the Civil Wars was one of the judges for that contest, which was really cool for me.
Yeah.
And there were some other amazing people who judge it, but I wasn't sure. You never know how people will respond to something, if they think something's going to be too progressive. I don't know. I wanted to keep it as all-inclusive as I could, but I definitely thought about making it Rocket Girl.
yeah, definitely. It would be a great title. So in honor of where this conversation is going, I'm wearing my Canada shirt.
Yes.
So if you're enjoying this podcast, can you pause for a moment to like, review, and subscribe? Please help the world discover our music community and the wonderful artists that we support. Your feedback makes a real difference. Let's talk about what that led to, winning that contest. It wasn't just that prize, but you made connection with one of my childhood heroes. Forget childhood, like one of my current heroes still, Alex Lifeson of Rush.
Yeah. So that was through the other sort of really big contest that I won a few years ago. I won a mentorship with Andy Curran, who was one of Rush's former managers and part of the management team there, and which I didn't know when I won the mentorship with him. I knew he worked for sort of a sync licensing company called Olay, which was really exciting for me. And so I won a mentorship video call with him, and it was really funny because neither of us really knew what that meant. We sort of jumped on the call and both of us were like, I don't really know what this is supposed to be, but we got along really well. And he started talking about some music projects he was working on, what he liked in my music. I asked him some questions about the industry, but when he started talking about the music he was working on, he talked about how they were still looking for a vocalist, which I thought was sort of like, oh, maybe he's sort of feeling the water to see if I'd be interested in singing on something, which I think maybe he was. I don't know for sure. The way he describes it, he says I had balls the size of Montreal to ask about it. But I offered, I was like, hey, well, if you ever need a vocalist or something, I'd love to collaborate with you. And maybe part of it is because I really just didn't know that he was as connected as he was, that he was, I just was totally oblivious to the whole thing. It was very genuine. And so he sent me some songs to work on to see if I had any ideas for it. And I I was really excited. I had some really cool ideas vocally, and I recorded them and sent them to him, and he loved it. And then a month later, he called me out of the blue and was like, hey, I showed this to my friend Alex, and he really wants to record some guitar for it. And I was like, okay, cool. I had no idea
No
that
idea.
he meant Alex Lifeson still. And he's like, you know who Alex Lifeson is, right? From Rush. And then my heart exploded. I just
Right.
it all sort of dawned on me in that moment. This whole time I just been so naive to the whole thing. And
Yeah.
it was just the most amazing moment. And that phone call was in the parking lot of my doctor's office. I just had a doctor's appointment. So every time I pass that parking lot, I just get
That was the
chills. I
place.
get excited. But yeah, so Alex recorded some guitar for it. He connected us, Andy connected us through email. And he was super, super nice. Every time Andy calls me now, he's like, Alex is asking about you. When are we going to keep working on music? I got to go to Toronto to record on some of the songs. We have a full EP recorded now. We're sort of waiting on when we're going to release it. And we're working on the tribute album, the Triumph tribute album right now, which is super, super cool. We have a song that we're doing for that.
Did Alex send you a little cassette of his, like a demo of his band that he wanted you to check out?
He hasn't yet. I'm sure he would, though. That'd be really funny. He's so funny. He's the funniest guy, and he's so kind and just genuine. We had the super fancy dinner in Toronto, and it's the first time I've had a dinner where they have the white plates and the super tiny portions, and everything's a different color and shape than you've ever seen before. It's really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So another cool thing about you that was super impressive to me is not just that you play harp guitar, but you actually can sing and play harp guitar at the same time, which you did, I believe, in that lead video for the Suzanne Collins song, right?
Yes, I did.
So how did you discover harp guitar? What attracted you to it? And how many days a week do you have to practice 24 hours to play that thing?
So the first thing that attracted me to those guitars, I'd come across some advertisements for them, and I followed their page on Instagram. And harp guitars are pretty expensive. Out of all the instruments out there, they're probably on the top tier as far as expense. But this brand was a more affordable harp guitar, the Timberline harp guitars, and so I've been following them for a while, and my producer followed them too. Nisi, who's one of the sort of, she works on the promotion side of things, and she reached out to me and told me that she really enjoyed my music and maybe would like to work together, and that they were looking for more female artists on their roster, because they have a lot of very talented male artists, but they haven't been able to find a lot of female artists yet. And I play guitar, but I'm not a virtuoso, so I was very intimidated by that. I'd never played a harp guitar before. I play guitar, but it's sort of a very intermediate level because I'm mostly singing while I'm playing. I'm not doing anything crazy, no solos. So I was really excited, and I love weird instruments. And so we worked out a deal with her to do a payment plan, and they gave me a really great discount. I love it. It's the most amazing thing ever. It's not as hard as I thought it would be to play. I've played bass before, sort of like having a bass connected to the guitar, but you can't fret it because it's all open strings, and so you have just a scale of low bass notes, and they're really resonant and beautiful. The hardest part is muting them because they're so resonant, and you don't want it to be so dissonant with the next chord that you're playing. Right. So you have to sort of I'm used to playing more than one instrument at the same time. I'll often do drum pad and keys, and I'll play percussion with my feet. So I think I've had a little extra practice with splitting my brain into different zones.
Yeah, one of the cool things about what you're doing, obviously, there's not incredible showmanship on the guitar playing, but what's striking is the thinking on so many levels, right? Because you're doing arpeggios on the guitar part and reaching up sometimes blindly to find that correct bass note at the top of the measure, and then singing on top and trying to not look down from the microphone. It's a little like, walking and chewing gum and rubbing your belly and all that stuff.
There's a few times where my heart dropped, and I'm like, I really hope this is the right bass note. There's a 50% chance I'm gonna play the wrong one, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, kudos to you. I know that requires a lot of work, and it makes this song sound really great. So
thank you.
So congrats on that. So what's next for you?
That's a great question. I'm actually currently working on my debut album. It's my first official album. I've released sort of like CDs at my shows before that have different songs and demos and stuff, but this is my first official full-length album. I'm really excited for it.
Excellent. Did you have a target date?
We're hoping for October right now. Everything sort of changed. We were originally supposed to release it a few months ago, actually.
So it's
But
done. It's a
yeah,
matter of releasing it.
it's not done.
Ah.
It should be done. I've been a little distracted. Like you said, this year's been very strange, just weird. But I have been working on my home studio setup so that I can record from home instead. We just finished getting it set up and it's really awesome. I'm super excited for it. And because I got connected with Burl Audio, we got some really nice studio gear from them. They did a COVID-19 song contest that I was a finalist in, and so I got some really great gear from them, and I'm really excited to record.
All
finally.
right. Well, I'm sure you're going to be a great success. Keep taking those shots and keep throwing your hat in the ring. And I believe that you're going to get a lot of future payoffs from it. It's great to get to know you a little bit, Maiah.
Thank you.
She's also part of our site at Listening Room Network. If you're interested in doing house concerts, once your area becomes safe enough for you to do inspirational things with music in your home, you can find Maiah on our site at listeningroomnetwork.com. We will link to your website as well so they can find you all sorts of ways.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Maiah. Take care.
Thank you.
And say hi to Alex.
I will.
Thanks for listening to the Fran Snyder Podcast. Please subscribe, like, or share to help your friends discover our community. Also, I'd love to hear from you with any feedback or suggestions that you have. You can email me at fran@listeningroomnetwork.com. Fran Snyder Podcast, brought to you by Listening Room Network and TrueFire.com. Learn, practice, play.